and he became famous for his cover illustrations of the Saturday Evening Post that he did for almost 50 years. This one is another one of visual line, because you can see that these guys are all looking at something, and because you can see this, you look down and you have to see what's in her hand. But I want to talk about how we can learn so much from an artist by trying to draw what they did. It's called emulating an artist. So we're going to try to draw this police officer right here. So if you look at this, in this Artists I Admire series, I want to share with you one artist that I admire each week. We're going to talk about the artist, a little bit about their story, and different aspects of their artwork and why I like it, what draws me in. As an artist, we look at things a little bit differently. So we're going to look at it from an artist perspective. Today we're going to focus on Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell is an artist that I have admired all of my life. In fact, I've had his drawings hanging in my bedroom as a child for years and years. And he's somebody that just draws me in emotionally, and he gets my heartstrings going. I just love his artwork because I'm connected emotionally to him. And I love the way he uses art to define everyday moments, simple times, simple things that maybe other people don't pay attention to. And that's something about Norman Rockwell that I really admire. So to start out with, let's just talk about Norman Rockwell a little bit and learn a little bit about his story. So Norman Rockwell was an American painter and an illustrator, and he became famous for his cover illustrations of the Saturday Evening Post that he did for almost 50 years. And his illustrations represented just different everyday life happenings of the Americans from about 1916 to 1962. He also illustrated the covers of the Boys Life magazine that was made by the Boy Scouts of America for even a longer period of time than that. He illustrated over 320 covers, and I think he probably put a smile on millions of faces just by the artwork that he put in there, by the emotion that he displayed in his artwork. And I think his art has been displayed on just about anything and everything you can think of. You can see his illustrations in books, calendars, and all sorts of coasters or cards, all sorts of things like that. He's done advertisements for Coca-Cola, Jell-O, General Motors, and others. And one of his most popular things, I think, is his Coca-Cola Santa Claus that he's done. So this is just a fun drawing of a Santa Claus, and he's done many of them in different situations and different settings, and it's just been a really fun thing to watch how his Santa Clauses have evolved over time. So one thing I admire about Norman Rockwell is the time that he takes into setting up his props and using models to create a reference picture so that he can really nail his drawings down and make sure that they're exactly like he likes. He was known for being very particular about his models and making sure that everything was just right so that he could create this illusion of a setting that he had in his mind. And so he used all sorts of props and models in his studio, and lots of costumes and clothing, all sorts of things he used to create the references that he needed. But just before about 1950, he had a fire in his studio, and he lost tons of props and a lot of costumes that he couldn't replace. They were costumes that from a time period that were hard to get again. So you can see a definite difference between his artwork before the fire in his studio and his artwork after, because he started collecting new props and new clothing and costumes, and it shows a different time period. So I thought that was really interesting. But I love the way he put the time into his reference pictures. And I am absolutely enthralled by his work, and I love looking at the pieces, and I love the messages that he has in some of his pieces of art. There's several pieces of his artwork that I really am drawn to, and I want to show you some of them. This is actually one of his pieces that I had hanging in my bedroom as a kid for years and years, and one of my very favorite. I just love this. He's created such emotion in his drawing here. I love that you don't even see the faces, the expressions on the faces, but you can just get the feeling of the painting here. And I absolutely love the poses that he has the models in, and the positions that he has. I love everything about it. I love that he kind of emphasizes things a little bit more, like this bench that they're sitting on. He's kind of curved it down, so it's bending down. This is another one that is one of my favorite, and I think this one it makes you smile. I love that he's created not just a connection between two people, but he's got another one involved in there as well, and a passive viewer on the side actually watching this one. But just the looking at the models that he used for the different pieces, it's just fun to see how he's just kind of emphasized things a little bit more. And the face on the boy right here is just charming. I love that one. Here's another one that I think is really cute. So I love the visual line that's created on this one. A visual line is a line that you actually don't see on the canvas, but your eye draws from one place to another because of where someone is looking. And you can see that this police officer is looking right into the eyes of this little boy. And so you naturally go from one to the other because you want to see what he's looking at. I love the way he's leaning in towards him, and just the smile on the guy's face back here, paying attention to this conversation, maybe eavesdropping just a little bit. I love the story that this picture tells. You can see by his little bag here on the stick, he's got this little bag. He's maybe he's going to run away, or he's, it makes you kind of think, oh, what's happening in this story? And you can kind of come up with your own storyline just by the elements that he's put in this. So this is one I think is really a fun one. This one is another one of visual line, because you can see that these guys are all looking at something, and because you can see this, you look down and you have to see what's in her hand and what's going on there, because that visual line makes you want to find out what's happening. So I love this. And I also love that it's a girl and the boys are actually looking on to see how it's done. I thought that was a clever way for him to send a message that, girls can do it. And I don't know what he had in mind when he did it, but I just love that it's a girl doing it and the boys are looking on, and that visual line that draws you into the picture. This is a really fun one. I love this one. This is one that makes you just stop and think. So a girl standing here in her jeans, but she's holding up a dress and imagining, her future. And I think this is a very sweet one. So I would love to hear the story behind some of these pictures and why he did what he did. But I love this. It's very elegant right through here. And then you look over here and you can see, things hanging on a hook and hangers and all sorts of stuff going on. But your eye, there's lots going on here, but your eye is drawn right here. And because you can tell she's looking in the mirror, it makes you look into the mirror yourself. This one is just fun. So there's so much expression in this one. You can see these guys are like, oh gosh, what's going on? And there's cheering going on and hollering. And I mean, he's spent a lot of time creating these emotions and the characteristics of each one of these faces, just to show, what's happening in the story. And I think that's really a fun one. And I love the light source on this one, where it's lit his shoulder. You can see a cast shadow. It's creating depth. And I love the little box that the players are in. It kind of frames it, which is a fun way to do it. This is one that I just think is hilarious. On this one, he's really done a fantastic job exaggerating things, but still making them look fun and lively and energetic, but just emphasizing the long lankiness of a teenager. By the legs, you can see, they're just so long and lanky, and there's Band-Aids and an ace wrap, and I mean, just all sorts of stuff going on, and he does such a good job of creating just fun, everyday moments, everyday, socks falling down, all sorts of things like that. And then look at their expressions here. You can see this, he's just hollering in, someone's, the different expressions, they are just at each other. And I just think it's a fun picture that you can kind of create your own story by this. But one thing that really draws me in on this one is the negative space. So negative space is a space around an object. And look at all this cool negative space. I just love this because all of this negative space kind of draws you right into the center and makes you want to see what's going on. So the negative space is really, really cool on this one. So Norman Rockwell is someone that I have always admired, and I think one reason I admire him so much is that he's done a fantastic job of creating artwork that gets you here. But he also, the reason I admire him so much is he spent so much time making sure his drawings were just right before he ever started painting. And so for this video, what I wanted to do is just spend a little bit of time talking about emulating an artist and what we can do to learn from that particular artist. So with him, looking at this picture, we talked about how he's leaning and the visual line that's created by the way they're looking and stuff. But I want to talk about how we can learn so much from an artist by trying to draw what they did. It's called emulating an artist. So we're going to try to draw this police officer right here. So if you look at this picture, we've got quite a bit going on, but first of all, we want to create a basic shape of this. So if you can see here, we have this basic shape that's kind of leaning. So I'm going to start light and loose, and what I want to do is I want to pay attention to the height compared to the width, and I'm trying to create just a basic shape that will get me started. I know it won't be right, and there'll be changes that need to be made, but we're going to go ahead and just try to create that basic shape. So I've got this basic shape, which is his back, and it might need to go a little bit longer. Can you see how I'm holding my pencil on the far end? I want to draw light and loose. We're working big to little and messy to tight. So we want to make sure that we're not putting detail in yet, and we want to make sure that we're just getting the basic shapes. So I can see his head's going to be about right here. So we're going to just create a shape that will kind of represent where the head is. We're going to get the rest of his back in, his legs in, the stool in, and knowing that everything that we've done is not going to be perfectly right, but it gives us something to work from. So as I work on this piece, I can learn a lot just by seeing how he used negative space, how he created the folds in the fabric, and to me it's almost hard to believe that it's not a real photo there, because there's just so much detail to it. Okay, we've got the basic shapes here. Let's go ahead and work from those basic shapes, and we're going to do a rough draft of the object. Now we have the shapes, we're going to create the police officer. So I'm not going to add detail yet, but I just want to see if I can spend some time and create a rough draft of this police officer. And I can make adjustments, pull things up however I need to. And you can see I'm committing to my lines just a little bit more, and I'm drawing right over the first lines that I drew. And those lines that I don't need anymore, they just basically recede into the background, and I don't have to worry about them. So I haven't pulled my eraser out at all. I'm just going right over the top of them. Let's work our way over this way, and we are going to get the other sleeve in. I'm just kind of alluding to the fact of all the all the wrinkles in his shirt. But I'm not getting caught up into too much detail yet. We're just trying to see if everything is fitting together and working out okay. As we go along here, and you can see his belt, we want to pay attention to that slight slope so that we can create that angle, the way he's leaning a little bit. Put this little bag there. I'm going to create the strap on his shoulder. And just to show some dimension, I'm going to have that strap go up just a little bit. And I'm working my way down. You can see that I'm creating an object now. It's not just a bunch of shapes, but I'm creating the object, but I'm not getting too caught up in the detail. So paying attention to the negative space or the space around the object, I can see that there's a little tiny space between the edge of his leg and his arm. So, and I can see his leg doesn't go out quite as far as his arm does. So we've got that in there. So if you can see how a picture is broken apart into shapes, it'll help you so much just to get your proportions right. So you're going to pay attention to negative space, you're going to pay attention to angles, proportions, and work your way from there. So we're not going to spend time getting all the detail in. We're just trying to do basically a quick sketch to learn from this artist. But we're going to get a little detail in here. And I can see by drawing that I need to lower the seat here, the stool here for him. And get that in. And I need to make the width of the stool a little bit more narrow because it starts right here. And it goes out this way. So I think there's something really powerful in drawing someone else's piece and trying to just understand where they're coming from, what made them draw what they did. All right, we've got some lines here that show the stripe on his pant leg. And then we've got his leg, and it's coming behind here just a little bit, so I'm pulling that in a little. And I'm looking at the negative space right here to create that foot. It's easy to stylize a foot, so we want to make sure we're creating the foot that we need. And I'm looking at the width here, and I can see that I've gone too wide. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that a little bit and pull that in just a little. Okay, let's go ahead and go to this side here. And we're going to pull this side out just a little bit. And his leg as well. All right, so I've got his body sketched in here, nice and quick. And let's get the head in. Okay, so the head is a tricky thing. We tend to want to flatten it out a little bit more than it needs to be. So if you look here, you can see where his chin starts at, and it's clear down about here. So we want to make sure that we get that width in. And I'm doing a quick sketch, so it's not going to have all the detail, but we're going to create the the size and the proportion that we need, and make it look like he's looking down at somebody. So I'm looking at the brim of his hat now, and I'm trying to create that shape. Instead of telling myself it's a hat, I'm just looking at the shape that I see and trying to create that shape. Knowing that I may not have it in the right spot, I may not have it the right size, and I need to adjust it, then I will do that as I go along. It's kind of dark with the background there, so I can't see it as well as I'd like, but I think it's going more like this. With a band here. So if I was to do an emulation of one of Norman Rockwell's paintings, I would probably spend a lot of time just doing some sketch work to get the drawing in, to get the idea of his style. And I would do a lot of different sketches and just become familiar with it before I even started my painting. But just wanted to share with you a little bit about Norman Rockwell, someone that I admire in so many ways. His artwork is absolutely fabulous. So look around, you've probably seen it in many places that you haven't even thought of. I know I've actually put several puzzles together with his artwork on it. So if there's an artist that you really admire their style, then doing an emulation is a perfect way to kind of get into their head and try to understand how they did what they did. It makes you think just a little bit differently than you normally do, and you can use those things that you've learned in your own artwork. So emulating an artist is one of the best things that you can do to learn. I hope that helps.